The recent killings in Uromi, Edo State have once again highlighted Nigeria's worsening security crisis. Reports indicate that armed assailants stormed the town, leaving multiple casualties and raising fears of escalating violence in the region. The attack has drawn condemnation from stakeholders, including the Edo State government, security agencies, and civil society organizations, all calling for urgent action to prevent future occurrences. Now, despite ongoing security interventions, incidents like the Uromi killings persist, underscoring the need for a more strategic and community-driven approach to security. Questions remain about the effectiveness of law enforcement, intelligence gathering, and justice for the victims. Joining us to break down the responses so far and propose actionable solutions in public affairs is public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. With his expertise in governance, policy analysis, and national security, he will assess the measures taken and what more needs to be done to safeguard lives and property. Good afternoon, Mr. Ojo. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsday.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon. Happy holidays.
We wish you the same. Thank you. Now, from your perspective, based on what we've seen happen with this very unfortunate incident, how would you assess the security agency's response when it comes to bringing the perpetrators to justice? Are you content with the pace at which this is being handled?
Thank you. Well, I think prevention has always been better than cure. Whatever action is taken now is kind of post-mortem. And I think the biggest lesson we should learn is how to prevent and preempt and ensure that such does not happen again. This diminishes us. 16 people roasted like suya on the ground of suspicion of being kidnappers. These people are traveling all the way from Rivers State, from what I gathered, and they got to Uromi, were arrested by the Vigilante. And again, it speaks to what manner of training did the vigilante groups that are operating across the country, what manner of training did we give them? Did they receive any training at all? I know in my own community here in Abuja, we do have vigilante, but nobody bothered to train them or to indoctrinate or to induct them. To properly tell them, okay, if this happens, these are the procedures. Because if the Uromi vigilante groups who had been trained to know that no matter the kind of suspicion you have, you don't take laws into your hands. You don't mete out jungle justice to criminals. And that's why, you know, when people go with the narrative that, oh, our judiciary is corrupt, our judiciary is not to be believed, the police are suspects, you don't trust police. If you don't trust police, you don't trust the judiciary. So how do you want justice? Is it justice through jungle justice, where you just arrest and prosecute without due process under the guise or pretext that you are maintaining justice? I do know that Edo State has been challenged security-wise in the recent past, so much so that it has been politicized. The PDP had called out the governor that is not doing enough. I recall that very recently around the Auchi Agenebode axis, a seminarian and a reverend father, a priest, were abducted, and one of them, the seminarian, was killed while the priest was released, maybe after paying ransom. And the people of that community, Auchi, had to troop out and went on peaceful protest to the Archbishop of Auchi, as well as even the police division, to protest the high level of insecurity in their domain. So perhaps, the Uromi people have also been at the receiving end of this kind of insecurity, which is why anybody caught with any weapon, whether it's cutlass or gun, is suspected to be killer, kidnappers, and that's why they did what they did. But again, it brings to question what manner of training does our vigilante groups, what manner of training do they receive? Because I know that the Nigerian Civil Defense that license private security operatives do organize trainings for these private security outfits. But unfortunately, the vigilante groups are not in the equation because they are disparate groups and they are just hired without due process. Many people that were hired as vigilantes, they don't even know their background. They don't know, there's no background check to know whether they have criminal records themselves and all of that, only to be handed guns or maybe AK-47. And this has also dented the clarion call for state police, because people are now saying if this is what we manifest in the event of having a state policing system, are we so guaranteed, are we so sure that this will not end up causing more havoc than solution to our security challenge? But it's something that needs to be looked into. So far, so good. The governor of Edo State has reached out to his counterpart in Kano. He was in Kano, I think, yesterday to commiserate with the good people of Kano. And 14 people allegedly has been arrested and have been brought to Abuja here for proper investigation and maybe prosecution. And the JNI, the JNI and the Northern Elders Forum are calling for compensation and public apology, which is not beyond what the Edo State government could do, so that we prevent a reprisal attack. But all said and done, a repeat should not be allowed at any time in future.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Ojo. But, you know, you mentioned the fact that the security men should have done better. I would like to know what you think they should have done in this situation, because we have a case with proliferation of illegal firearms in Nigeria. And the presence of Dean guns in that truck maybe signified some form of security situation and maybe triggered some potential harm in that case. But I know that, according to what you said, there is a better way, and this highlights the need for training for the men. But what would you have suggested that they should have done in that situation? And does this also indicate a bigger security issue, having the proliferation of illegal firearms or the Dane guns, of course, in that truck?
Well, what I thought should have been done, if proper training has been given out to the vigilante groups, what the proper thing should have been for them to arrest those people on ground of suspicion that they are kidnappers and handed over to the Nigerian police for proper investigation and perhaps prosecution. If they don't have confidence in the police, they could have, as well as taken them to the Nigerian military base in anywhere around either Uromi or in Benin City. Because, you know, that's why I always warned that we should not demonize our democratic institutions. We should stop this demonization. Oh, the judiciary is corrupt. Oh, the police is corrupt. So if you already presumed that handing over these suspects to the Nigerian police will not serve the cause of justice, then you will not want to take them there. And that's why we see all over, particularly in Lagos, where people carry out jungle justice. They just put tire around anybody that is suspected to be thief and burn them, because they have lost faith in the state actors. And that is why the state actors themselves must do the needful to rebuild people's trust and confidence in their policies, programs, in their ways of handling issues. I recall that in Lagos, very recently, just last month, one young man was hit by a woman somewhere in the island. And from what we read, the lady refused to carry the victim whom she has hit to the police, to the hospital. And, you know, eventually this guy died. Now, people are of the opinion that police should have slapped a manslaughter, you know, charge on that lady, because if she has not hit the guy, who was on a bicycle, from what I heard, perhaps he would not have died. But what Nigerians have been treated to is that this woman was now slammed with charge of reckless driving. And so people said, this is not fair on the dead. If somebody is responsible for the cause of death of another person, ordinarily, on the surface of it, you would think the best thing would be for police to slam manslaughter on the woman. Yes, she didn't intentionally kill the guy, but for that accident, the guy would not have died. But the police decided to now charge the woman with manslaughter. That does not inspire people's confidence in the Nigerian police. I'm just using that as an instance. That's not what is under discussion here. But what I'm saying is that the Nigerian police, the Nigerian military must have better civil-military relationship, must have better police-civilian relationship, and there must be proper training of our vigilante groups. I recall that people from northern Nigeria had been arrested somewhere in Ondo for moving en masse in trucks down to southwest, and they were stopped. And the Hausa community in Ondo State were called, and the Amotekun call said these people cannot be allowed to proceed to wherever they are going because they don't have any forwarding address. They were with some charms and cutlasses and guns, and they said they were going on hunting expedition. So the Amotekun call in Ondo State simply asked them to go back to wherever they are coming from. That is a more civilized way to deal with issues of, when you have a suspicious, you have some people arrested on suspicion that they are criminals. You don't take laws into your hands. But like I said, the Nigerian police must also inspire people's confidence that they don't and they won't connive with the criminals to allow them to escape justice. Because what many people will say, particularly ordinary citizens, is that, if we take these people to the Nigerian police, they will induce them and release them. And then that will be the end of the matter. So I believe it's the failure of the Nigerian policing system to inspire people's confidence, or maybe to explain certain things that are unclear to ordinary citizens like us about the policy and procedures of Nigerian policing system. Maybe that's why many ordinary citizens does not have confidence in the Nigerian police. Maybe proper education of the citizens will make them to say, okay, it's not like we release these people. Maybe it's the court that says, the offense is bailable and they are released on bail, or that, there is no diligent prosecution, or that there are no witnesses. But until you explain and make sure that people have confidence in your policies, in your procedures, in your modus operandi, there will always be this suspicion that the policing system is not to be trusted. I don't believe they are not to be trusted, but ordinary citizens perhaps have that notion that the Nigerian policing system cannot be trusted because previous arrests that were made and then the suspect taken to the police were released either on bail or they were let go, and then that's the end of the matter. So, I think the Uromi killings also call for proper tightening of security. The state actors must rise to the occasion. The paucity, the death of Nigeria, sufficient number of policemen and women to ensure proper security, perhaps is also what has led us to a situation where every community now have to rely on vigilante to protect them from marauders. So Nigerian police have to redouble its effort. We need to recruit more operatives, both police and military, so that the forest and even the highways can be properly policed, and then we can put out the bad boys from making life difficult and miserable for ordinary citizens.
Well said, Mr. Ojo. I think it's very important to reiterate what you just mentioned about the need for the Nigerian police and military to have better relationships with everyday civilians. But we also, yesterday we had Group Captain Sadiq Sheh, who retired, speaking on this subject matter. One of the matters that he touched on was when it came to the guidelines in terms of recruitment, how recruitment is done with vigilante groups. And according to him, what he recommends is an inclusive recruitment that reflects the population in that area. Using that as a premise, what guidelines would you suggest for those for the states that still feel the need to have vigilante groups? What guidelines would you recommend should be non-negotiable when it comes to the recruitment process of these vigilante group members?
Now, what I would recommend is that when you hire vigilante group, have them documented by the Nigerian police, have them inducted by the Nigerian police, let the Nigerian police do some background check on behalf of that community. Because, you see, many of these vigilante groups member, nobody knows their background. You don't know whether they themselves are, moles, whether they are moles, whether they are people of shady character, whether they themselves are suspects. Because when you just recruit, and this goes for many communities around the country, we don't bother about background check. Even when we hire ourselves, we don't bother about doing background checks. And that's why they become complicit in many criminal actions that we witness all around us. We have seen ourselves, killing their masters, and making away with their property, their jewelries, their stuffs. So what I believe is the irreducible minimum is that every community that wants to hire vigilante, let those vigilante members be documented with the Nigerian police. Let them have their biometrics captured by the Nigerian police, their facials, their fingerprints, and let them be taken through some inductions, some kind of routine, guidelines. Don't take laws into your hands when you arrest criminals. Make sure that you don't mete out jungle justice, arrest, but bring to the police for diligent prosecution or for proper investigation, because these people have no training, and many of the people you find in the vigilante groups are not even educated. They don't have Western education. So they possibly just lack the proper conduct or ethics that should go with this kind of dealing with sensitive situations, particularly when you have communities that have been under siege of insecurity for long, and you now have people whom you have suspicion that they could be the criminal gang that have been terrorizing you. The emotional thing is for you to go on reprisal, to kind of want to do meta justice on your own. But these are the kind of things that the police, or if the police are too busy and not willing to do this, the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps can also take on this responsibility. Like I earlier said, Nigerian Civil Defense Corps are licensed all private security operatives, private guards that are operating in Nigeria. Those are the uniform guards. The Nigerian Civil Defense, by their act, are the ones that give license to them and also help with the training of these private security guards. But the vigilante groups are not regulated. They are not registered. They just operate, even though I know that there is a Vigilante Services of Nigeria, but I doubt whether there is a proper licensing from the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps for them to operate. So we need to have them regulated, have them documented with the Nigerian police, with the Nigerian Civil Defense, let their biometrics be captured, let there be background check for these people, and then let them be taken through some intensive training and guidelines on how to act, what are the parameters of their powers, what can they do, what can they not do. For instance, while they can make arrests, they cannot by themselves investigate and prosecute. they cannot, detain suspects. They can only arrest and take such suspects to the Nigerian police, who has the statutory power to investigate and prosecute. So these are part of the things, but I think this also speaks to the larger issue of state police that has been on the drawing board for a very long time.
Right,
I know there is a bill at the National Assembly.
We'll have to end the conversation here. Thank you so much for the expository contribution to the show this afternoon. Mr. Jide Ojo is a public affairs analyst, and we hope that peace is restored in Edo State, especially looking at the potential escalation of violence in the state.